Hello and welcome. Today's story and drawing I decided to do based on a three-word prompt. The words being, I believe it was enchanted, cosmic, and nostalgic. Dragons are very nostalgic for me. I've always loved them and I used to draw them all the time. Um, and then enchanted and cosmic, I think will just explain themselves as we go forward. Um, so the drawing is done by me, Clicker, and the story is also written and voiced by me. As evening fell, Tora was quick to close her little shop. She usually stayed open a bit later than this, as someone always remembered last minute they needed some charm or another, so she would take all of the last minute evening customers, as the other witch shops, apothecaries, and magical goods places would be closed already. But she had been on edge all day. It wasn't just her, though. All of the other witches and mages on her lane had sensed it too, whatever it was. Tora grabbed her bag, choosing out a few herbs and a charm or two to push into her pockets, and grabbed her hat, shoving it on her head and ignoring her veil as it draped over her shoulder rather than flowing out behind her as she made for the door. She snagged her broom and locked the door behind her with a wave of her hand, considering the feeling in her mind. It was one of nostalgia, almost, niggling at the back of her brain like a name to a familiar face she couldn't quite remember, or a strangely familiar smell that she should recognize, but could not place what it was or where she knew it from. In other words, it was invigorating, but annoying. Speaking of annoying, she hadn't seen a single wizard all day. They were typically out and about in their little cliques, getting into trouble as they wound down from spending a long day thinking in their towers. Tora snorted. She wondered when the last time it was they made huge batches of charms to sell to people of the town who thought magic was a friendly little beast that could help them out with whatever they were working on, and not a malevolent creature that would eat you if you dove in too deep without knowing what you were doing. And customers always haggled every time they would try to haggle you down on the price of this well-made charm, which might as well be an assault weapon if you knew what you were doing with it, or if you messed up using it very badly. When was the last time a wizard had to deal with that, Anyways, keeping track of tittering wizards was not Tora's job, and she would rather get stuck babysitting a gaggle of baby griffins while wearing her white blouse than do that. She continued through the town, watching magic users of all types look around and up nervously, trying to figure out what it was that was bothering all of them. Tora didn't worry about it, instead making her way to the platform where she could mount her broom and head out to the nearest hill to perform some rituals to figure out what this was all about. Tora! She glanced back to see her friend, Jackson, rushing to catch up. He was a young mage, currently studying warlockism. He wasn't sure if he was going to get completely on board with the practice, but the longer he studied, the more he looked the part. He was even wearing an appropriate pendant with the symbols of chaos and confusion swirling around the edge of the wood. "Hello," she said curtly, only slowing down slightly. "Any ideas on what's going on?" "No, I've been scrying for the past hour and all I'm getting are images of stars," he said, annoyed. "You?" "I'm about to go to the hill and perform some rituals, though if you couldn't get anything, I'm not likely to figure out what this is." He snorted. "I doubt that. I'm not that good at scrying." "Maybe not, but you're the only person in town with a bone and mahogany scrying bowl with Mother of Pearl inlay. At least, isn't that what you say about it every time it's brought up?" He squawked, glancing around to see if anyone had heard about his most prized possession and was suitably impressed. And Tora simply snorted. "It's alright, Jackson. I'll be back in an hour after nightfall. Come find me if I'm not back by then." "Alright," he said, miffed. "I hope that whatever it is that is causing all this resonance eats you." "Oh, I hope so too. Then you'd be, what, dessert?" Jackson rolled his eyes, but he did have a smile on his face as he did so. "Alright, see you later then." "See ya." Tora stepped into the takeoff and landing stage and hopped onto her broom, waiting for her turn to take to the skies. With short lines as the sun touched the horizon, the city soon fell away from her, and the buildings passed quickly below as she got more height to get over the city. Below her now was the forest, unusually silent as the sun dipped for the horizon. The hill she was coming to was one that her grandpa used to take her to when she was younger. She often came to think about things, but also found that this was the best place to focus on more complicated issues and spells. The landing was soft, the thick grass cushioning her feet as she did so. She put her broom down in the grass and pulled her spell book from her bag, sitting down so that she could flick through the pages. She ignored the way the grass tickled at her elbows as she looked, opening the table of contents every so often as she tried to find what she was looking for. "Come on," she muttered. She unpeeled a couple of pages and closed her eyes, pulling out a small case of dandelion seeds. She took one, murmuring the words in a language so ancient that no one dared mess with the spell for fear of breaking it or causing a horrible plague to come down on the face of the earth. That happened enough with other spells as it was. There was a brisk breeze that swept the hill, scattering some of her seeds before she could get the box closed again. And with that, an old ghost sat beside her in the grass. "Why'd you stick my pages together?" she asked her grandfather, annoyed. He sighed. "I had front row seats, child, but you called me anyways. Stuck pages should have been a clue not to bother me right now." "Front row seats?" "Ah, yes, over on the mountain tops yonder." Tora made a disgruntled noise and said, "For what?" "Khalil approaches," her grandfather said reverently. "You'll be able to see him soon. Now, I really do want to get back to my seats. Excuse me." Her grandfather ended the summoning spell, ignoring the cut-off spluttering from his granddaughter as he did so. She huffed, looking over the landscape as the sun's light disappeared at the horizon. "Stupid old man and their stupid old tricks," she grumbled. "Unhelpful as always. Oh, pardon me, I have to go. You'll see soon. Cryptic old..." She stood up quickly as she swept her gaze over the sky. She had spotted a strange shape moving far in the southern part of the sky. She squinted as everything darkened completely, and over the horizon came a huge draconian creature. Its mane of streaked purples flared as it made its way through the sky, taking over the vastness of the stars above. "What is that?" she whispered. The draconian creature flashed in the horizon, streaks forming around it as it scraped through the top of the atmosphere. She stared in a state of shock and awe as the being moved its huge forearm, causing it to partially disappear behind the horizon where the sun had just set. It could have scooped up the whole of the mountains as it moved past, but it didn't even look down at the planet, flying as if it had a place to be. She stayed there all night, watching the creature fly. Its tail was so long she couldn't ever see the end of it, and when morning came, the light washed everything out, and all she could see was a faint glimmer here and there of where she knew the tail was still sailing overhead. It was mid-morning by the time Jackson came to check on her, and he didn't seem very invested in the task as he simply plopped down on the ground. "Did you see that?" "Yeah," she whispered. "What was that?" "Khalil." "Oh. Okay. You want breakfast?" "Yeah." She went back to the hill that evening and looked up at the sky as the stars returned. The tail had passed completely over the planet during the day, it seemed, though in the northern distance she could see a star that hadn't been there the night before, a star that had been in the southern sky a few nights previously. She shook her head, watching Khalil as the great cosmic creature continued on his long journey outside of her own comprehension. Not that it was Tora's job to comprehend. Nah, that was a better task left for the wizards to deal with. That story was pretty fun to write. I'm still extremely proud of this drawing. I really like doing scenes. I didn't used to, but I've really developed that side of my drawing abilities. And thanks for sticking around. Leave me a comment with suggestions for stories and drawings you'd like to see in the future, as well as maybe suggestions for improving the quality of my content. That'd be pretty epic. Editor Clicker here. Speaking is not my strong suit, so editing these voice bits has been rough, and I'm not even hardly started yet. Anyways, have some bloopers. Is a good time. Okay, bye. Hold on, I'm gonna take an antacid and then I'm gonna continue. Oh my eyes. The tail had passed completely over the planet during the day. It seemed, though, in the north. The tail had passed completely over the planet during the day. Oh my gosh! The tail had passed completely over the planet during the day.